What's going on, YouTube? It's James with Shyhammer Fantasy, and basically, guys, I'm at work right now. I got like an hour to kill, and I was looking over the ETC lists, and I've already gone through plenty of the ETC lists. I've actually gone through them all for my Matrix, and what I'm doing right now is just looking over orcs and goblins specifically. To be honest, I was listening to the Amertime podcast with Jack from the Thundercocks. That I think they call it the Amercock or the Thunder Time podcast. I don't know. Anyways, I was listening to their podcast. It was like a 2-hour long podcast, and it was actually pretty interesting. They were talking about all the lists. And then there was another one I listened to that they were talking about lists too. I actually listened to Abrasis's video as well. But one thing I've been noticing is a lot of people aren't really talking too much about orcs and goblins, and that's basically where I come in, man. I'm the orc and goblin guy, man. So I'm going to go over the list really quick. I kind of mentioned this on the Facebook T9A Greenskins page. If you guys haven't signed up to that and you guys are an orc and goblin player, want to see some cool models or some cool conversations about orcs and goblins, we're on the Facebook page that's called T9A Greenskins. Anyways, we're just going to go over a couple of lists and my point of view, my perspective on what I see here on the list. That's on the screen right over here, so if I'm not looking at the camera, sorry. But you guys could also go onto the ETC list and see what the hell I'm talking about. So I'm just going to kind of skim through everybody, kind of see more or less, and I could be totally wrong on these things, on these predictions. Basically my perspective on it, if it's not necessarily good list, bad list, just different lists or how I see them, what's their potential in against a lot of these other ETC lists. So let's get started. So the first one right here is Austria, and Austria is Hermenard, my brother in arms. Anyways, Hermenard is bringing a very interesting army. He's bringing a shit ton of Nashers. Now, Nashers, he put them in 24, so he's basically running them 8x3, so that's basically a horde. And I get it. You bring them 8x3. I'm actually bringing the same thing, one unit, but not 4. He brought 4 units. If they die, they die. They're 270, 280 points. If they go swing first, they're going to attack you with full amount of attacks, and then they're probably going to die. But they are actually a really good punch, and for 24 attacks, it's the same stat line as a spider for a lot less the cost. And I'm talking about the fact that the spider gets 8 attacks, strength 5, weapon skill 4, where the Nashers get 24 attacks, strength 5, weapon skill 4. So the Nashers are pretty damn deadly. Hermenard's list is really interesting. He has a double master. He has a thaumaturgy and a, what's the other one? Shamanism. So he's able to beef up his Nashers. They're going to be strength 6. He's going to be able to make you -1 to hit. It's a really interesting list. And then he also has thaumaturgy, so he can lower your strength or lower your toughness. And just these Nashers are going to be deadly as hell in close combat. He not only does he have like 4 units of Nashers that are disposable, he has 5 blocks of orcs. So he's running out 5 blocks of orcs with spears, and they're gonna get you on angles. You're gonna run in. He's gonna be steadfast on a lot of these units, and you're just gonna be stuck. That's just really interesting. His BSB has the Ether Icon and the Obsidian Rock. And then he has a couple war machines as well as a little bit of chaff. So overall, like, the war machine's going to weaken up your units. The freaking magic's going to weaken up your stuff. And if you really think that you're going to just go in and just like kind of crush all these units, he's basically just going to sit back and do thaumaturgy and war machines at you. So it's a pretty solid list. I actually give Hermenard one of the best orc and goblin lists, and he's the first one on my that I see. There's a couple in here that are like, hell no, I don't want to touch that. But I gotta say, Austria definitely has a good ONG list. Belgium, he's the first one that I see in numerical order here that has pyromancy. Pyromancy, I mean, he does have Essence of the Free Mind, so he's able to play shamanism or pyromancy. The thing is, with pyromancy, I'm bringing pyromancy as well, but it changes a lot of the matches from an okay match to a great match, especially these light armor armies, these elf armies, stuff like that, where just Pyro's just going to eat through them. It could really change a match. So I think that's it's always a good thing to have a pyro. And one of the things that was mentioned a lot, especially a comment on my list, was pyromancy is pretty weak. The thing is, pyromancy is pretty weak all around. If you were to play it in an all-around meta in a singles tournament or something like that, but in an ETC style tournament, you're able to pick your match or get your matches picked for you. And if your captain is on board with that, they could just straight up give you, just say 4 of the matches are not pyro friendly. 4 of the matches are like Kingdom of Aquitaine, Infernal Dwarves, whatever else. They're just not pyro. They're heavy knights or heavy whatever. But then there's 4 that are. They're gonna throw that towards you and hope you do good. So it really does change up the matches. So this is Cedric Van Bell, the Malik. And he has, let's see, a BSB, Flaming Standard, Willow's Reward, Talisman of Shielding. Flaming Standard's always just decent item. Hey, I was still looking at that. My sleep mode went on my computer. Flaming Standard's always good. You're just gonna run if you run into stuff with regen. If you run into Tomb Kings, Tomb Kings are running up like with a shit ton of regen. Let's see, an Adept of Witchcraft, which is just good for either Raven's Wing or Deceptive Glamour. Deceptive Glamour's huge, just lowering agility and then just going for it. He has a Koopa style model, which is a Goblin King on a Huntsman Spider. Has a 1-up armor. I don't see a ward save. I think he has a rerollable. Yeah, he has a rerollable armor save and a breath weapon. So basically, it's Koopa. Has a Hero's Heart. A lot of people mention this to me. They're like, "Why don't you take a Goblin King with a Hero's Heart?" Man, it's only 1 strength higher. So you're strength 5, AP 2, which is basically my whole army. Orcs and goblin, orcs, Edbashers, squigs, spiders. All those are strength 5, AP 2. So I'm not a big fan of the Hero's Heart on a Goblin King. I actually like a little bit more punch. But that's what he has. He has the 8 Goblin Raiders out of the core. He has 28 Adbashers. 28 is basically the sweet spot. It's the 28 is the spot where like you have 4 ranks. If they have the Green Tide Banner, which he does, Green Tide Banner, he's basically hitting in 3 ranks. Paired weapons, you ignore parry. It's just basically a sweet spot. If you take more than this, you end up spending a lot more points, which is not necessarily needed. I realize his points are less than mine, but I think it's because he doesn't have a Mammoth Stava. Then he has 20 orcs, paired weapons, feral, 3 units of Nasher herds again, 25 black orcs with the green tide, and then 2 Git launchers. So he has the iron orcs with the BSB in there, so they're not going anywhere. Probably with the orc shaman as well. And basically, if he's taking orc with shamanism, he's not going to get wounded much. If he takes the pyromancy, then you basically he's playing the ranged game. Overall, I think that his close combat is really strong. I think his close combat is really strong. You got 3 Nasher herds, you got the iron orcs, and then his range combat, besides the pyromancy, is he has 2 Git launchers, and that's basically it. Me personally, I would like to see some bowfire, just to weaken up some of the units, because the orcs are relatively slow. The Nashers are fast, but the orcs are relatively slow. So being able to get hit by something that's faster than you, you start to bleed in numbers. But overall, it's a pretty solid list as well. Most of these lists are going to be solid. They're freaking ETC lists. All right, let's see this really quick. Be right back. Making a video. Okay. Bulgaria. Stilans. I won't even pronounce that last name properly. All right, let's see. Bulgaria. He has a Feral Orc Shaman, Wizard Master Shamanism, Crown of Autocracy, paired weapons, Potion of Strength. Potion of Strength's pretty nice. Just, somebody goes in, they have to wound you on 5s anyway because you're running Shamanism. And then you go ahead and you do a crush attack to them, and that's it. So it could be kind of a nasty little trick there. Feral Orc Chief, BSB, Banner of Relentless Company. Banner's always good. Essence of Mithril. I think there was a mistake on this list right here because he didn't have light armor upgraded, so he just had Essence of Mithril. I could be wrong. I think that's what I saw though. Great weapon. I mean, it's an old school Feral Orc BSB. I mean, he has a 2-up armor, 5-up board, and a great weapon. It's pretty stout BSB. Let's see. Common Witch Doctor, Wizard Adept, pyromancy on a chariot. That's fun. He has, and there's a shy ambulance guys coming this way. He has 30 feral orc adbashers, paired weapons, green tide banner, same as before. 20 goblins of bows, 20 goblins of bows, 7 trolls, which I'll get to that as soon as this ambulance passes. 4 goblin raiders, 2 skewers, 2 git launchers, 2 giants, and a gargantula. So, this is a very mixed list here. So, he doesn't have a fighty lord. I mean, he kind of does, he kind of doesn't. He has a monster mash with 2 giants and a gargantula. He has git launchers and skewers, so he's going to be picking off wounds here and there, especially on these heavy armored units. And then he has trolls. So he does have a very good close combat blocks almost. I feel like the monster mash suffers with the heavy divination meta. The meta is super divination friendly, and I think that not all these monsters are going to see the light of day. I think personally, for what he has here, a binding scroll would have went a long way to help you on those div spells, because you're not going to be able to stop them all. Especially a lot of these have like a lot of these lists have double masters, so you're seeing like stuff like alchemy and div, or div and evocation. So these have like snipe spells, stuff like that, and it'll do multiple wounds to these big monsters. And of course the giant wants to get hurt a little bit, but it might be a little tough. But also at the same time, he has these 2 doom divers and skewers that are able just to like plink wounds. The trolls, the reason I want to bring up the trolls, there's a couple of people who brought trolls, which I didn't even think that was going to be a thing. There is several, most of the warriors list brought the burning portent. I don't know how to say that. It's the sword that basically does D3 wounds, and it's flaming. Other than that, there's I don't think there's a lot of dreadmills out there. Almost everybody has dreadmills and rats. So there's a couple things that do multi wounds, go through the regen, and I feel like trolls are going to suffer a bit in this meta. Overall, though, I do, again, it goes right back to what I said earlier, that he's able to, his coach, his captain, will be able to pick his matchup. So if he sees that, he's going to just avoid it. But I do think it limits his capabilities of who he's going to be able to see or go against. And, I mean, he might be a great player, too. He might be able to just be like, go work around that. And that's one thing that most people, they see a list and they automatically, I'll give you a prime example. Prime example is probably Furion, or I mean, even some of the USA guys, you look at their list and they're like, that's a rather weak list. But then when you play the player could excel, make a list so much better. So that's something to think about. Croatia, Dennis. Again, I don't want to pronounce the whole name because I'll probably butcher it. So he has the first orc warlord I'm looking at. Thank God. I didn't want to see all these shamans as his general. Orc warlord. He's an iron orc. Do the shamans get Warcry? I don't know if that's possible or not. The warg, as they used to call it. Anyways, Iron Orc Warlord. He's on a boar. He has the 1-up rerollable. He has the Omen of the Apocalypse hand weapon, Dragonfire Gem, and Potion of Swiftness. So he's going to swing first, most likely, unless he's playing like a vampire or an elf or a demon or something. But most other things, he's swinging first, and he's swinging with a shit ton of attacks, and he's doing it with a shit ton of strength. And I don't know if that's technically able to be said on a T9A video, but it's a shit ton. They should put that in the description of the Omen of Apocalypse. How many attacks? A shit ton. But anyways, it's a scary lord. I mean, it's a scary, scary lord with a 1-up rerollable. Doesn't have a ward save at all though. So if you have something that's AP 10, a good bolt thrower, or good, even if he has the Dragonfire, so he doesn't care about alchemy. But there's other things that will just go through the armor. It'll ruin his day. But besides that, all his points are spent in offense. He's going to hit you, and he's going to hit you hard. This lord is really scary. Honestly, these lords with the Omen of Apocalypse, I'm not a fan of the Omen of Apocalypse, and I'll explain why in a second. But it still scares the shit out of me, because it's not a joke. Those guys hit hard, they hit with a lot of attacks, and hit with a lot of strength. The reason I don't like the Omen of Apocalypse, though, is it can be parried. You can't take it on paired weapons. So if you're on a hand weapon shield, all of a sudden, even though you got a lot of attacks, you run into somebody like a freaking skeleton unit, and there's like parry, and like, yeah, you have like 9 attacks or 8 attacks, but then your 8 attacks get negated by like half. So you're only going to hit with 4. Whoops. Turn that back again. All right. Let's see. Orc Chief, BSB, Banner of Relentless Company, always good. He did take light armor and Essence of Mithril with a great weapon. Same exact as the one right before in Bulgaria. Orc Shaman, Shamanism, Wizard Master. Is that even an ambulance? What is that? Where is it? I hear it, I don't see it. Oh, it's cops. Alright. Orc Shaman, Feral Orc Shaman, Shamanism, Wizard Master, Warboar, paired weapon, Skull Fetish. Skull Fetish is an awesome item. I don't know if you guys seen it played, but basically it's able to get a lot of Veil tokens, which really boosts the magic phase. If I could, I would have afforded, I would have took one, but I just couldn't find the points for it on my list. Goblin Witch Doctor, Witchcraft, Wizard Adept on a Wolf, Book of Arcane Mastery, again, great for Deceptive Glamour. And then, again, with the Orc Shaman, being able to hit that Potion of Strength is pretty nice. He's on a boar as well as the Orc Warlord, so I'm assuming he has a huge bus of Orc Boar Riders. So those two characters in that unit are able to pump out a Strength 10 D3 plus 1 Wounder and a Strength 8, like 8 attacks or something like that with the axe. That is pretty nasty. He does have a huge unit of Feral Orc Boar Riders. They're not the Ed Basher ones, so they're pretty cheap. They're only 500 points. Stalker Standards, so they're not taking DTs. 36 Feral Orcs. So he took like, I don't even know if he could take 36. I thought 35 was the max, or did they up it to 40? But 36 Feral Orc. Oh, they're not Ed Bashers. They're just 36 Feral Orcs. I see that. With the Green Tide Spear. So these are Strength 4 ones. The other ones are Strength 4 ones. Goblin Raiders, Scrap Wagon, Scrap Wagon, Scrap Wagon, Grotlings. National Wrecking Team, Green Idol, and Gargantula. So the Wrecking Teams is, I think this is the only list that took Wrecking Teams, which is pretty interesting. It negates chaff on the other person, because the other person is probably going to just throw their chaff to blow it up. B is if you don't have chaff, or there's a couple lists that I saw that had no chaff. These guys are just going to go nuts. These guys are going to rip apart their army if they don't handle it. And also the National Wrecking Teams force the opponent to use their magic and shooting to kill them, instead of killing like the Gargantula, the Green Idol, or focus fire on this giant block of Feral Orc Boar Riders. So I think the National Wrecking Teams is a really smart inclusion in this list, and they're only 140 points. When did they become 140? I thought they were like 160. That's actually not that bad. I think that's a smart thing. Stop turning off. It keeps on snoozing on me. Come on, turn back on. Okay, there we go. So I think this list is pretty solid as well. Shooting wise, doesn't have much in shooting. Has pretty strong magic. Has really nasty close combat. I think one thing that's going to hit him, the Green Idol is awesome because it lowers, it allows you the 3d6 leadership checks. It allows you to have this giant piece of chaff that's just a tank that's not going to go anywhere. And it's another crush attack. So he has 2 crush attackers and a Gargantula. It's a pretty good list. I think it's a pretty solid list. I think his shooting is light, and he has nothing to hit you at range. And the reason I keep bringing that up is because I do feel like orcs do suffer on a lot of units hitting first or swinging first. He did do the right thing by giving a lot of bodies. He does have a lot of bodies in Feral Orcs and Boars. And in all honesty, the Gargantula is going to soak up a lot of the magic. So is the National Wrecking Team. So his little bus of Feral Orcs with this freaking Iron Orc Warlord in there are just going to just destroy something. Leadership 9 frenzy checks. He might fail that often. We'll see how that does. I'm interested to see how he does, though. I think that's a good list as well. Let's move on. Denmark. Oh my God, Soren. So Soren is a guy I actually talked to quite a few times about lists, and Soren has the most interesting list. He actually got voted on my Facebook page, again the T98 Greenskins page, as the most interesting list because the guy has everything's on a chariot. His orc warlord chariot, Dragonfire gem, Omen of Apocalypse again. Common Orc Chief, BSB, Chariot. And this guy has an Obsidian Rock and an Ether Icon and a Stalker Standard. So he's basically making sure that the magic, the alchemy is just non-existent to the unit of chariots that they're going to be in. Common Orc Shaman, Shamanism, Chariots. Binding Scroll Wizard, Adept, not a Master. Common Orc Shaman, Thaumaturgy, Adept. Common Witch Doctor, Goblin, Pyromancy, Adept. Damn, he has 3 Adepts. They're all on chariots. 45 goblins with Madgets, with 3 Madgets and Nets and Banner of a Relentless Company. So he's going to basically triple march throughout the Madgets. And then he has another unit of 30 cave goblins, Madgets. They don't have the Relentless Company. He has 5 orcs for scoring, 2 wolf chariots in 1 unit, 1 wolf chariot on its own, and then 3 grotlings, 2 git launchers, 2 green idols. I got questioned. I think Ryan Capps asked me. He's like, "Why would he take 2 green idols in this list?" It's basically to reroll the ones on the impact hits. So he's going to be able to do so many impact hits. He's going to roll probably like 6d6 plus 1 impact hits on some big ass unit or some shit somewhere. It's most likely going to be like 3d6 or 4d6 max, usually, because there's nothing really with a big frontage unless he gets like flanks and stuff. But if his idol's in range, which also does impact hits, might I add, but if the idol's in range, it's going to be able to, and there's 2 of them, it's going to be able to let them reroll the impact hits if they roll once. So it's pretty deadly. It's a lot of damage everywhere. It's just a lot of damage output everywhere. Iron Orc Warlord's not going to panic. The BSB, if he puts it, the thing is, he would have to put them in a unit together. The 4 shaman, or the 4 orcs. I'm sorry, because there's no way they could go into a unit other than themselves, which does put a lot of points together, and that unit could get killed by a combat res for the most part. But he is making sure he's making the charges. He has so much threat charging at you that you're going to be afraid to move forward. It's a very interesting list, and I think he's going to do really well. I think that's a very strong list. Like I said, with the Obsidian Rock and the Alchemist Alloy, he's just negating half the magic on this unit. He's going to... And then with the 2 green idols, he could just stand in front of his Iron Orc Warlord if there's like a cannon list or a bolt thrower list. It's a strong list. It really is. Let's move on. Vincent from Team France. Team France, we got a Feral Orc Shaman, Shamanism, Binding Scroll, Crown of Autocracy, Warcry. Doesn't have the double weapons, doesn't have the Potion of Strength, but still Shamanism, Feral Orc Shaman. Feral Orc Chief, BSB, Light Armor, Mithril Mail. Doesn't have the Great Weapon. Interesting. It's like he has the same thing as the other people, but without the extra little, that pushes them. Goblin King on a Wolf, Heavy Armor. This is the old Chicken Head model. He has a Heavy Armor, Dusk Forge, so he has rerollable armor save. Probably like a 1-up armor. He has Ghostly Guard and then a Dragonfire gem. So I'm assuming that's a 1-up armor, rerollable. 270 points. It's a pretty cheap character. It's a cowboy. He's going to run in the back lines, and he's going to create havoc. He's only strength 4 though, but most things they're just trying to get rid of them. Like bolt throwers are going to suffer. The wolves are so fast that the bolt throwers are going to suffer trying to take them out unless they get a lucky shot. Yeah, that's interesting. Forest Goblin King on a Gargantula. Now he's taking my thunder here, and he also has a Binding Scroll, so I think that's 2 Binding Scrolls. That's pretty cool. 2 double Binding Scrolls changes a lot of matches, especially against these Divination lists. The Divination can't target the Gargantula if he can't get the damn spell off, and then by turn 3 the Gargantula's in you. So I think it's a pretty strong character right there. Hero's Heart, that's where it loses me. The Hero's Heart, why do you want the Strength 5 character? Oh, it kills me. If you're gonna stop turning off on me. If you're going to take a character that has 8 wounds and, might as well just go with a great weapon or the shady shanking or something else. Hero's Heart's where it killed me. 30 feral orc Edbashers, paired weapons, mammoth stabber, green tide's pretty standard. 30 goblins, maggots, that's pretty standard as well. They don't have, they just have shields. So basically he's using them for the maggots, then he's using them for combat res or tar pit, because all he has is shields. He doesn't have bows or anything. 8 cave trolls. I love cave trolls. It's just a lot of points. 642 points for 8 cave trolls. 29 Nashers, 10 Nashers. One of those units of Nashers basically acting as chaff and counter chaff. 4 Grotlings, which is chaff, and then a green idol. Overall, it's a pretty solid list. I don't see his third scoring unit. He only has feral orcs and cave goblins. That's the only scoring units he has. Everything else is into the trolls, idol, and the characters. And the Force Goblin King is awesome. I'm not gonna say otherwise, because that's basically what it is. The double binding scroll is awesome. I feel like he kind of skimmed his points because he tried to get these big guys in, and we'll see how he does. France is a really good team though, so they probably see something I don't. We'll see how that goes. Italy, and by the way, I got like 15 more minutes before my client walks in, hopefully, so I'm gonna try to finish this as fast as possible. Italy, Alberto, he has Orc Shaman, Warcry, Binding Scroll, Crown of Autocracy, Shamanism, Orc Warlord, Iron Orc, Axe of the Apocalypse, or Omen of the Apocalypse, sorry, Potion of Swiftness, 1-up rerollable Orc Warlord on a boar, Orc Chief BSB, Iron Orc, Ether Icon, Green Tide, Alchemist Alloy, Lucky Charm, Willow's Ward. This guy has a lot of shit for a BSB. Holy shit. He makes it where you're going to try to shoot the unit with magic, and it's -1 because of the MR. The unit's going to hit an extra rank because he has that banner too. He makes sure he got all his armor up on there. He has a Lucky Charm to make it a rerollable armor. And if you're charging in with a chariot, he's going to take the impact hits for... If it's a character, he's going to be like, screw it, I'll take it. Bink! With the Lucky Charm and the Willow's Ward, that's actually pretty cool because I think the Lucky Charm the Willow's Ward makes it where it's like -2 to impact hits on the AP, which is usually all the AP that impact hits that does. And then if he fails it, he's going to reroll it anyways. And then he's the BSB, so you're basically going to challenge out. The BSB takes it. You barely do any wounds to him, and then he's going to win on combat res. So that's pretty interesting. Witch Doctor, Master, Witchcraft. So he has a double Master. Oh, no, I read that wrong. Arcane Mastery. Book of Arcane Mastery, Adept, Witchcraft. So he still has the Shamanism Master, Witchcraft, Adept. That's pretty common, apparently. That's like the 4th list that I've seen with that. He has another Witch Doctor with Thaumaturgy, Apprentice. Okay, so just for the extra magic missile on a wolf. 9 Boar Riders, Common Orcs. 40 Feral Orcs, just standard. They're not the Edbashers, but they have Spears and Flaming Standard. 20 Orcs, 5 Goblin Raiders, 28 Iron Orcs with Mykonos Totem, and 2 Git Launchers, 3 Skewers. So he has really good range with the War Machines. He has 5 War Machines. He has a Thaumaturgy spell, the D6+1 Magic Missile. He has Witchcraft to negate your movement, to negate your agility. Then he has this giant block of 28 orcs that are just going to basically turn off. This unit, the Mykonos Totem, I think is a underrated item in the Orc and Goblin book currently, because you can see there's not that many people who took it, but it really does change up matches. There's a lot of matches where they have this character who's going to ruin your day, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm going to turn off that item that ruins my day. And it screws them. There's so many ways to use the Mykonos Totem, and if you know that, you're able to kind of dictate your matches. He has a giant block of feral orcs that nobody's going to want to touch because you see 40 orcs in a unit with spears. You're like, I'm going to be tar pitted by a strength 4 unit that's going to basically just kind of wreck me. And then he has another couple units of scoring, so this is a solid list. Latvia, Alexei. Orc Shaman, all the same stuff. Skull Fetish, no Potion of Strength. Goblin King, Forest Goblin. Stop turning off on me. I'm reading. Sorry, the computer keeps on shutting down. It thinks that I went AFK. Let's see. Forest Goblin King, Huntsman Spider. So it's a Koopa with the rerollable armor with the Flame Ward on the Basalt Infusion. He also has a Troll Ale Flask. Hero's Heart weapon again. I think it's just because it's a cheap weapon. I think that's why most people take it. Goblin Chief on a Huntsman Spider with just a shield. This guy's 120 points. I think that they can get it as cheap as like 105 points. I mean, granted, this guy's probably like a 5-up armor, maybe a 4-up armor. I think it's a 5-up armor. And, but he's, for 2 health, I'd rather just take the 5 dogs. But it does scout. I think it's still interesting. When I saw it at 105, I thought that was great. That's a discount. It's a cheap piece of chaff. But let's see. Goblin Witch Doctor, Common, Thaumaturgy, Adept, Binding Scroll, Goblin Chief, Common Goblin, BSB, Rod of Battle. Interesting. 35 Feral Orcs, Green Tide Banner, 20 regular Orcs, 5 Orc Boar Riders, 8 Goblin Raiders, 7 Trolls, and they're the River Trolls. I think this is the only guy I've ever seen take River Trolls in my 4 years of going to ETC. 5 mounted Ed Bashers, Feral Orcs, Git Launcher, Splatterer, Gargantula, Green Idol. Holy shit, this guy took like one of everything. He took 1 Green Idol, 1 Gargantula, 1 Splatterer, 1 Git Launcher, 1 unit of Trolls, 1 unit of Dogs, 1 unit of... He's just like, I'll just take 1 of everything. That's good enough. He has 1 spider with 1 small spider, 1 big spider, 1 medium spider. Oh my god. I don't like this list. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't like it. I don't see. And again, I could just be wrong. He could be a great player. He could just kind of like he could be like the best player of all in the world, and we won't see until it actually goes through. Again, like I said, the Trolls are too susceptible to multi-wound stuff. There's a lot of flaming stuff out there right now. There's alchemy out there. He can't take out Warriors players. Warriors players run this list over, especially since he only has 1 Git launcher. I don't see it working. Other than that, I do like some of his characters, and then like some of them are just kind of. I love anybody who brings a Koopa, and he brought a Koopa, so. I'm not too fond of that Hero's Heart, though. Moving on. Mexico. Oh, that's me. I guess I'll just go over my list real quick. Got my General with the Touch of Greatness. So he's Strength 7 with the paired weapons with the 4-up ward. Got the BSB with the Mazazappa bow. I think I'm the only person who brought a Mazazappa bow, too. Maybe one other person, but I don't think anybody else has, which gives me quick to fire on a unit. Pyromancy, Binding Scroll, Magical Heirloom, and I haven't seen Magical Heirlooms either. That's interesting. I got Koopa! King Koopa on a Gargantula Spider with Shieldbreaker. And I know I keep on talking crap about this Hero's Heart, and people have told me, why'd you take the Shieldbreaker? Take a Hero's Heart for that 1 extra pip of strength. There's a lot of poison attacks. When you get a poison AP7, you're just like, boop, poison, AP7, you know? Dragon Staff, and I think that's what the other Gargantula was missing, was the Dragon